If you think about it, is the female Titan the right name for the female Titan? I mean, it's technically right because, well, you know, boobs and a feminine physique, but my friends, what if I told you there is a better way to look at the female Titan's true purpose and abilities, and its name? Ladies and simps, behold my greatest YouTube idea I've ever had. This is the Mimic Titan. If you enjoy Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Invincible, and Dennis the Chainsaw Man, then this is the place for you. We've got tons of stuff going on here at the SeaTactics, so please do hit that subscribe button and drop a like to help show your support. Okay, so in the second to last episode of Attack on Titan, after everyone leaves to fight Eren, Annie is back on Azumabito's boat with Kiyomi, Gabby, and Falco. In this conversation, Gabby tells Falco about these visions he is seeing, but more importantly, she tells Gabby and Falco that back in the ye olden days that they made Annie swallow all sorts of stuff. Now stop. No horny. Okay, the reason she swallowed a bunch of stuff was because the female Titan was able to mimic the abilities of other Titans. This canonical ability, in other words, makes the female Titan more like a mimic, like, I don't know, the Mimic Titan. Now, in the show, this scene is used to explain why Annie was able to call Titans with her scream, control Titans, and use hardening. This made from the get-go, and still likely, one of the most deadly close-range Titans outside of maybe the armored and attack Titans because she had use of these powerful abilities. What's even cooler is we sort of know what this process looks like and is described like. They basically give the Titan shifters vials that are labeled certain ways to describe what they're swallowing. So one label, as an example, could be hardening and another scream. But the real reason I am here today and saying all this is because many people feel there is no purpose for the female Titan. They think that this Titan in particular is literally either made for fan service, which is indeed a statement considering we have the Attack and Founding, also the Kawaii Titan, but in reality, even though Annie is never seen using this power in the field, the female Titan literally can mimic any ability. So let's get into what exactly the female Titan can do and why it's a game changer for Attack on Titan's entire lore and the way we even see the female Titan. So let's just start with the Warhammer Titan, because that Titan in of itself is very versatile, interesting as well, as it is able to use crossbows, swords, hammers, bows, and even create a hardened suit of armor around it and burrow its user into the ground. So let's say in this alternate what-if scenario, you will, imagine if Annie was able to use this ability to mimic others by consuming a part of Lara or the Warhammer Titan. Theoretically, of course, we possibly could see the female Titan gain the ability to create a suit of hardening around itself. How about being able to create a crossbow or bow? Having that in mind, imagine if Annie did all of this before going to Paradis. They could literally create a scenario where Annie could create a crossbow, a hammer, hardened body, and that would literally change everything we know about Attack on Titan, at least from the female Titan perspective. Annie would be extremely overpowered from the onset, and because of that, many scenarios would change. Say, for example, the female Titan's first appearance, that would massively change. As on top of that, having her hardening abilities could change as well. Imagine the attack and female Titan fighting in the forest of giant trees and engaging in a fight with Eren. She could use her bow to hop up on the trees and snipe down from below. This would basically make Eren's attacks useless because she would be so high up, and as well, at the time, Eren wasn't exactly a mastermind of combat like he is now, or at least appears to be in the final season. So he wouldn't know how to challenge Annie properly, and because of that, he maybe would have lost then and there. As well, imagine their 1v1 climactic showdown in season 1 where they fought through literal buildings and climbed walls to fight each other. If Annie has the ability to send hardened spikes from the ground like Eren did when he gained the Warhammer Titan's ability, then once again, you could guess that maybe Eren wouldn't be able to win that fight either. On their own, these abilities are just abilities, but put into the hands of Annie, the Warhammer Titan's abilities immediately become way more deadly. Her hand-to-hand combat combined with hardened armor, hardened spikes, hardened weapons, well, as you can guess, Annie very quickly becomes a very, scary Titan to be aware of. But what would happen if, say, Annie took a nibble out of Reiner? This one is a little bit more straightforward, but the female Titan would essentially be able to armor itself just like the armor Titan would, which would easily be one of the coolest forms of the armored or female Titan, I think. Its body would be covered with armor, and of course, since it's, anime, the female Titan would get boob armor because, for some reason, anime loves their boob armor. But this actually comes with plenty of downsides as well. Think to let's say Elden Ring. What happens when you make a very lightweight build that can roll really fast? Well, that's Annie as the female Titan by default. She's basically the naked build of Attack on Titan. But what happens when you take the same build and put on heavy knight armor? Well, you're able to tank a lot of hits. You don't need to dodge anymore, and really all you need to do is stand in place and do your thing sipping away at Estus flasks. However, this in turn would make Annie less agile, which is her main strength, so she would have then, much like Reiner, have to rely more on close quarter combat to make this form the most useful. So no more roundhouse kicks, long sprints, jumping, or those big ol' steps she did in Season 1. This isn't exactly bad though. Depending on the scenario, you could easily see this as a strength, especially get someone, say, like the Attack Titan, Founding Titan, or Warhammer Titan. It would become a very useful tool in those scenarios, actually. However, maybe one day Annie decides her one-woman power trip just isn't enough for her, and she needs more, meat. Well, it turns out nobody likes Zeke, so she takes a chomp out of him to gain the abilities of the Beast Titan. Now, what does that look like? To simply put, it's somewhere between Super Saiyan 4 and a furry, so, bleh? But for the most part, the female Titan would gain longer limbs, way more fur on her body. Basically, she would return to monkey. This would also be another useful ability for her, as with her longer arms, she could be more useful in throwing things long distances, though it would change her fighting style significantly as she would become much more top-heavy, meaning no more judo kicks, being less mobile, and generally becoming the closest thing to a long-range Titan. However, what could be really useful here is, say, Annie uses the female Titan's ability to close the gap and in hand-to-hand combat surprises the enemy by using the longer arms to get a better reach. That's just one example, but this one, kind of simple, really. Things get really interesting when Porco steals Armin's Pop-Tart. So, becoming Vengeance Incarnate, Annie decides that maybe being a nutcracker for a change would be nice. Give him a taste of his own medicine, so to speak. So the female Titan, let's just say, gains the ability of the Jaw Titan, which basically supercharges Annie's already insane agility and stamina. She would be able to easily cross long distances in mere seconds and unleash devastating close-range attacks, which would literally slice and dice the opponent. Annie would be in her true element with the Jaw Titan's abilities, I think. Even more so than, say, the female Titan, and dare I say this could be her most effective use because it simply maximizes Annie's strengths as a fighter and agility. However, the downside of this is that she could pretty much lose the ability to implement holds and things like judo throws. Still though, not bad considering she could just go back to her normal female Titan ability at a whim, but what the Jaw Titan really does for Annie's female Titan is allowing her the ability to fly. Imagine the female Titan subtly growing wings, launching itself into the air. This would make her Titan extremely useful and immediately one of the best, period. No other Titans can fly, and that alone makes the Jaw Titan extremely useful. But what happens when you have Annie, who is a master at combat, use these wings to her advantage? Also, she'd become a literal angel of death, y'all, like Gundam Wing, but with a huge nose. Ain't that cool? So, I don't know. Let's say Barclophagus gets up the courage to finally ask Annie out on a date. He's all dressed up, he's looking fly. He even took a bath. Rare in this world of Attack on Titan, as Isayama has confirmed. He looking kind of cute. He looking good. So he uses his best pickup line, and Annie is just, she is just swept off her feet, and push comes to shove. After the date, things go down, and maybe Annie just so happens to take a bite out of Barclophagus. You know what I'm saying? It happens. But what happens? That's the question. The female Titan becomes the colossal female Titan and grows to over 50 meters in height. This one would be super interesting because she'd gain the ability to use the nuke transformation, which is the entire reason the colossal Titan is awesome. And also the female Titan would just become, massive. It would indeed be cool to see, but I doubt it'd be, that much use considering the Colossal transformation alone expends so much energy, and on top of that, the Colossal Titan shrinks the more it stays active. So much like the actual Colossal Titan, it'd only be useful in certain use cases. But either way, good for Barclophagus, I suppose. He finally got a dub. Okay. We had to go over this one. So let's say Mikasa decides she doesn't like Annie. Why? Well, she has a nose prejudice. And so the two face off in the greatest anime battle known to man. We're talking better than, like Goku and Krillin or whatever it is. Eren witnessing this and all, he is just enthralled. Such passion, such energy. The movements of two people at the top of their game. But here's the thing. When Mikasa looks over at the corner of her eye, seeing Eren, says Eren, which distracts Mikasa. So in that moment, Annie seeing this is like, decides to eat Eren's entire arm. The whole thing. So what happens? Well, besides being a tasty treat, this would also allow the female Titan to, see glimpses into the future. That's about it, though. The attack and female Titans are basically the same ideas with different special abilities. They're both just naked men and women Titans with amazing bodies, way too good, really good hair, by the way, solid fighting ability, and agility. Maybe Annie and Eren's edginess will cancel out the edge. That's probably another benefit there. Alright, so Annie decides she's had enough of it all. She hates Reiner, hates Barclophagus, so fuck it. She decides to hunt down the Founding Titan herself, and she's able to track down the Founding to under a church. There in a crystal cavern, she finds Frida and the rest of the Fritz family in their weird-ass robes, listening to gospel music or something. She confronts Frida and is like, "Give me that Founding Titan or I'll eat you." But Frida is like, too late. So Annie in a split second eats Frida's foot because it turns out Annie has a mad foot fetish. Just the worst. So like the vile creature she is, she eats the foot and gains the abilities of the Founding Titan. And what happens, you say? Annie gains the ability to control the memories and composition of all Eldians, aka subjects of Ymir. This would, of course, not be the most useful, as she'd need to remain in contact with someone of royal blood, so she'd run into the same problems that Eren did, but she would be able to start the rumbling if she so desired. However, she would, I think, realistically, probably just get rid of the 14-year curse, as this would allow her to spend more time with her father. Other than that, I can't really see what Annie would do with this power, honestly. Of course, the Founding Titan would still exist, so would Frida just cancel out any of her decisions as well? It'd be interesting, that's for sure. As for fighting capability, though, there just is none. It's the Founding Titan. She was defeated by Grisha, of all people. But let's be real, she'd probably just use this newfound ability to squish Mikasa or something like that. Anyway, so what do you think about the female Titan's mimic ability? How would you have her use the abilities, and do you think her mimic ability was underutilized? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Financially support the channel and gain access to my mega One Piece arc reviews and first impressions video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.